Hello, everybody, and welcome to this stream. In this stream, I'm going to explain a new package that we've made called Laravel Support Bubble. We'll install it into a new project, we'll take a look at how it works, and then we'll dive into the tests. So we're going to take like a full view of this package. I hope that you are ready for this. Let me share my screen here. So let's maybe start with telling a little bit of history about how we got the idea here. So I think a couple of days ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, we had some problem with one of our Forge servers. So we had to mail support, and we saw, hey, they had this little bubble here where you can just submit a request. And we thought, hey, that is pretty nice. We want this at our services as well. And we were mainly thinking about like this would be a great way for people that use Flare to report issues. So we wanted it to have it here. And now you can see that we have it here. So if you log into Flare and you'll take a look at the bottom corner of the page, you'll see this little bubble, and here you can just type your question here, and when that is submitted, then a mail will be sent to the Freshdesk installation that we use. So we thought, hey, yeah, we can build this into Flare, but it would be better to just extract it to a package so we can use it in other projects of ours as well. So, and that is basically what we did. So our solution has been packaged up mainly by my colleague Alex, who did an excellent job on this, so that you can use it in your projects too. And it's a very opinionated package. So if you like the conventions that we decided on, you're going to like it. But it only supports like the use case of displaying a form. We don't do anything special there, no two-way interactions or no screenshots. It's really nice and simple. And we provide Tailwind CSS styling out of the box. So if you use Tailwind, then you're in luck. It will look good from installation, and otherwise you need to provide styling yourself. We have some nifty little features. I don't know if you noticed that, but at Flare, we don't ask for like your username or email. It would make sense because you're already logged in, so the package supports that as well. We send some metadata like URL and IP address, and yeah, you can extend these views. So you can change the copy on them, or make some customization that we didn't think of. One other cool thing that we added built in is a honeypot. So a honeypot is a way to prevent spam. So what we basically do is render an invisible field on the form. And if that field is filled in, if we see that in the submission, then we know, hey, a bot probably just filled this in, because these spam bots, they are so dumb and they just see, hey, this is an input element, I'm going to fill it in, and they don't care if it's visible or not. And believe it or not, you can catch quite some spam with that. So that is included. So I thought it would be fun to just install the package so you can see how easy it is to get started, and then do the source dive. But let me check the questions first. Adrian asks, I dig how your background light changes colors. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool too. You actually have plenty of applications on the App Store and probably also on Android that you can control where you can control your hue lights. And I'm using, I think, let me check this. How is this one called? Where do I see the name of this app? I think on lights or something, and you have quite some animation that you can enable there. So it's basically just some app. Okay, let's start and install this package. So I have here nothing in my hands, nothing in my pockets. We're just going to start with a new Laravel app. So Laravel new, yeah, and I've already rehearsed this a couple of days ago. I've said that Alex mainly created the package, but as Pasi, we always review each other's code. And what I mainly do to review packages for my colleagues is to just build them into the application and follow the installation instructions. So let's do that again. There goes Composer. Oh, I forgot something. I got something fancy that I can do on streams now. I can have some background music here, so we can all chill out a little bit. How professional of me. I hope that the level between my voice and the music is good. If not, let me know, then I'll put it a little bit quieter. Okay, so Laravel Support Bubble app. What I also like to do is to have like a little Git repo. We're not going to push it, but if I do something dumb, then I can go back to a previous state. Good levels, nice, thanks for letting me know. Okay, and then we're basically just going to follow these instructions. So I think if everything is good, I should already be able to open this. Yeah, so I have a new Laravel application. That's already good. Didn't have to minimize that, but go to here. So first thing that we need to do is just add the support bubble package like that. Then we must include Tailwind CSS in our views. Let's start up PHP Storm. This is actually like the first stream that I'm doing on my own where I have background music and I can also hear it myself. I don't know if I like it. I think I do. It's a little bit soothing. Let's see. Okay. Let's open up resources, and in that welcome view, we're just going to dump Tailwind CSS there. Yeah, maybe here, like that. Then add the component to your view. So we need to add the XSupport bubble. So this is the blade component that actually renders the thing, and I can put it like anywhere. Let me put it a little bit at the bottom, maybe here. It doesn't really make a difference where you put it because we put it in the corner via CSS. Okay, next we need to add this route to the API routes file. Probably because we don't want the session to start up, we don't make use of the CSRF token here, because that would complicate things a little bit. We have that spam filter in place, so that will probably already catch faulty submissions. Yeah, so we're not using CSRF. I wonder if this is correct. If in API, do we need CSRF in API? I don't think so. You know what? We'll find out, and maybe we'll correct the installation instructions in a minute. Let's see. Where do you want to mail to? Ah, yeah. So the package, what it does is when a submission is made through the form, the package will send off an event for you to catch. And basically in that event, you have all the submitted form values. And you can do with those form values whatever you want. But to make things easy, the package has built-in support to just send the mail, because that will probably be like the common use case. We can also imagine that you may want to make an API call to a help desk of your choice. But that's something that you then yourself need to do. That's where the event is handy for. So let's configure, let's publish the config file. Let's maybe go over what you can do in the config file. This package can be enabled. Probably it's always enabled. The default route, so you don't need to notice this too much. This is handled behind the scenes by the macro. I actually should put this config value a little bit down, because it isn't common that you want to change it. I'll do that in the package too after the stream. Here you can say which fields should be displayed. So we have a few common fields here, and if you don't need those, you can put this to false, but let's turn it to on. Pre-fill the logged in user, so that's what we do at Flare. So when there is a user, we'll already pre-fill the name and email values. And here you can set the destination where you want the mails to be sent to. So I'm going to just send them to a generic mail address. And here you can just configure some of the Tailwind classes that are on the form. We've added a couple of things you might likely want to change in the config file, so you don't need to publish the view files for these customizations. Here Alex says, and I hope this works, yeah, you either use api.php or add the exception to verify CSRF token. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, where was I? Okay, we're already at the end of the config file here. Let's go back to the installation instructions to see if there's anything that we've missed. That's the config file. And yeah, here we have the options. So with any luck, this should already work, I think. Okay, let's go to the browser. Where did I put it? Here. Silly me. So here, let's refresh. And there we have our little support bubble. And that's how easy it is to get it displayed there. So this one makes use of the beautiful purple highlight color we have going on at Flare. But if you want to have something else, you can do that too. So we already have like the purple classes in here. So maybe let's just change them to something else. We want to have like a red bubble. Let's refresh. And now we have a red bubble. That's how easy it is to change the color. Let's take a look at the comments. There's a question here. Can this still be used if the user is not logged in, like on a website, instead of using it on your client's account? Yes, you can do that. That's just what you see here. So this is just a plain Laravel installation. Nobody's logged in. And here we have those name and email fields. Okay. Let's maybe fill this in and see what happens. I've got Ray here, which can be used to also track emails that are sent to the local log. But I should, for this to be visible, I should use the local logging. It's here, mailer, I guess, and this should be log. And with that in place, if I fill this in, I should be able to see the mail that is going to be sent. Hi there. I've got a question. Let's submit it. And thanks for your message. We usually answer within 1 working day, but I don't see it here. So I wonder what I missed here. It's probably some small detail. Let's maybe take a look at if there is an HTTP request being made with those values. Let's see what comes back. Alex, if you're on the stream and see me do something wrong, let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's go to sources. Let's refresh here. So we have an initial state here. Oh, not sources, network, of course. Let's do this away. Let's fill out this form. And a little bit of a smaller screen here. You know what? I'm going to disable some of these fields. Just to make it a little bit smaller. And then you see that that works as well. So let's say that we don't need a subject and we don't need a name here. Let's refresh. Let's refresh. And now we should have a slightly smaller form. And let's take a look at the network. Like that. Underneath this, like that. Okay, the support bubble, we've submitted something and we got a 200. Okay. It doesn't need to run in queue. It should work with Valet. Here's a question: can I customize the success messages? You could. It's just a view that you need to publish, and there you can just edit the message. Did you catch the event in Ray code? Well, normally Ray should be able to display everything that gets written to the log. So maybe is there something wrong? Maybe let's just take a look at the log. So I got a package for that as well called tail to see what gets written to the log. Is mail to set? I think it is. Let's take a look. We have mail to info@spatie.be. Let's maybe take a look at Tinker for the config values to see if it's actually there. Support bubble. We have some values here, and mail to is definitely filled into. Yeah, Alex says that if you want to customize the success messages, then just using the translation files can be used as well. Yeah, Alex did a good job on making this all customizable. Okay, what is the next thing that we could check? Maybe there's something wrong with the mail settings. Let's take a look there. Config mail. See what's there. So the default is log. Yeah, I think log. Yeah, there's really nothing that can go wrong there. So let's see. Yeah, of course. I didn't install the Ray package. So Ray isn't actually in there. Silly of me. Yeah, I'm not used to working with projects where Ray isn't installed into... Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, it's Friday. It's been a long week with Larcon. If I'm honest, I'm a little bit tired. So I'm happy that it will be weekend soon. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this again. You know, I'm also going to tail the log just in case. Let's submit it. And yeah, now we see it. Now we see it. So we see a message from the support bubble message that Freek unknown here. Here, that's where it would set the name. Maybe we need to handle that a little bit better, so we just don't display the name, but only the email. We see the message, and then we see some metadata of the request. And that is basically all there is to a package. But yeah, as you've seen, we've only took it only took a few minutes to set this up. I actually took more time with installing Ray and with all those troubles and installing this package. So if you need a support bubble for your application, I think this is like the easiest way to go. Okay, now that you've seen that we can actually use this in a Laravel application, let's maybe dive a little bit into its source code. So let me close these things up. And let's go to Laravel support bubble, like that. And let me take a sip of my water. Okay, and let's go through this. If there are any questions whatsoever, let me know, and I'll answer them. You can see that this package actually is pretty small. So we have a component here. So that's the blade component that will actually render the HTML. We have that event here, which will get triggered after you've submitted the form. And you can see that we've made it very easy to use. All the more important form values are on the event as separate properties, but you also get the entire request. So if there's anything that you want to use that isn't on these, you can just grab it of the request here. Let's maybe also go to the service provider here to see what happens here. The service provider is a package service provider. This is something that is provided by another package of ours, which makes it very easy to just configure a Laravel package. Here you can see that we can just give this package a name. We can say that it has a config file, that it has translations, and it has views. And if you would do this with the default Laravel methods, then this would take a lot more code. So we register those blade components. Here you can see what's behind that route macro that we registered. So if you use support bubble, what happens then behind the scenes is that we register a post route, and you can customize the URL a little bit. And then we will use this controller to handle it. And you can see here that we use the protect against spam middleware, which is provided by another package of ours called Honeypot. Let's see. Yeah, this is interesting. So if you fill in that mail to from the config file, then we are going to listen for that event, that support bubble submitted event ourselves from within the package. So if you provided a mail address, then we are going to listen for it. And when we hear that event, we are going to send the bubble response notification, which is a notification that is also included in the package, of course. Nothing special about this. It just uses the Laravel's provided mail message. Okay, let's see. Sami asks, is that what enabled route support bubble in API.php? And then I'm assuming that you're talking about this macro. Yes, that's this. So this is what adds route support bubble. So with this defined, you can use this in your route file. That's correct. A question from Kusei, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is it generated using your skeleton for package development? Yes, it is. And you can actually see that on GitHub. So if I go to Laravel support bubble here, then you see that GitHub actually says it. This was generated from this skeleton. And this is basically a repository that contains like our package skeleton that we use for every package. If you decide to create a package of your own, then definitely take a look at this. There are some installation instructions here, and this will basically save you a lot of time when you're coding up a package. Okay, so we've nearly covered the entire backend. Let me go to controllers here. So you can see here, this is the controller that handles that form submission. You can see that we have a request going on here, nothing special here. You can see that we set those fields required based on what's in the config file. And yeah, when you're here, you've basically passed this request validation, then we just fire off the event. So it's super simple. Now, the interesting bit, I think, or the link to the front end lies in what's here in the render method of the support bubble component. Let me open up the resources directory. So here in the views directory, we have a couple of files, and we've basically split up everything into its own file so that if you want to overwrite something, you can just publish the views, change the one that you want to overwrite, and just remove all the other published views. So if you only want to update maybe the chat icon, maybe you like something else in here, then you can just publish all the views, change this particular one in your own project, and just remove the other ones from your project. And then you've just overwritten the chat icon one. Okay. Let's go back to the component and let's see where it all starts. It all starts here with support bubble. So let's see what's going on here. So you can see that we have here an encompassing div where everything is being rendered in. And we use a couple of includes to add some things here. So in this view, we have the HTML for both the form, which will be rendered invisible. I'm going to go into details on that in a few seconds. And we also have the little bubble here. And we also here have a script that will be included. And here all the behavior is defined. So you don't need to have like a pipeline running or something. This is just a basic little script that we inject. It's probably not the most performant way to do it this way, as this will be rendered as or will be transmitted as like full JavaScript. There isn't any optimization, but we think that doing it this way is nice and pragmatic, because you don't really need to care about how JavaScript is handled. It will just work when you install the package. No need to add something to your build pipeline or anything. Okay, so I've said that I'm going to go over the files before I explain more. So this support bubble, that is basically, let me get the test Laravel application here. So Laravel support bubble app test. So this bubble is basically this one. And if you click on it, then you see the form one. And here you can see the form. You can see that we use the honeypot here, provided by that other package. And here you can see that we have a has field function that determines if that field will be loaded. So that has field property that is being called, or that is defined in the component itself. And here we basically just reach to the config value. So if you wanted to have that value there, then this will return true. And this is, just a nicer way, so you don't have like a config file helper here. If I'm honest, I wouldn't mind seeing the config function being used here, but I guess that this is a slightly cleaner way to go about this. Let's see, what should I explain next here? Maybe a little bit on how we position all the things. And let me totally level with you. I'm a total, what I'm going to say, maybe newbie, or no, I'll say I'm not really that confident using Tailwind. So Alex explained some of the things to me, how things work, and I was pretty surprised that it wasn't too hard at all. I thought adding an animation like this and hiding something would be very difficult, but you can actually achieve all this behavior with only a couple of Tailwind classes, which to me as a CSS newbie was pretty amazing. Okay, let's go over how we do this. So here you can see, so the initial state of this bubble of the support form is that only the bubble is shown in the bottom right corner and the form isn't displayed at all. And when you click it, then the form gets moved in with a nice animation. So the nice thing is how this is done is that this form actually already is displayed, but it's displayed outside of the view window. Let's take a look at how that is done. So this is the encompassing container, and this is the form include, and basically that entire behavior is being handled with this, with actually these classes. So what happens here is we're going to hint to Tailwind that, hey, we should animate all of the transitions. So this one is about the animation that you want. These two ones are about the positioning of that form. Oh, and I forgot to say that that how we get it in the top right corner is with these classes, with fixed bottom 0, bottom right. So the top right corner, it's a flex. It's a flex box. Flex isn't on here, but it is being added by the script here. This is basically here because we don't want to let anything flash. So by default, this one isn't visible at all. It's being set here in display none. And when we actually boot this whole thing via JavaScript in the script here, then we are going to make it flex, which will render it visible. Where does this Bootstrap support bubble get called? Well, just at the bottom of the JavaScript file here. Here we are going to loop over all support bubbles that we can find, and we're going to bootstrap them. Now, in normal circumstances, you will only have one bootstrap bubble, but we thought it would be nice to, if people really wanted to, that we already set some things right if you want to have support things. Let's see. So I was actually busy explaining this one, how that works, this transform and translate x full. What this says is that when this is rendered, we are going to actually render it on a different place than it should be. And x full means that we are going to render it on the x-axis, so horizontally to another position, and full means we are going to take this exact width and we're just going to use that width to move it to the right. So with x full, it's pretty handy because you don't need to know how long this element actually is. We just say to CSS, take the full width here and just use that distance to just move it. And in our case, because we positioned it at the right edge of our screen, it will move off screen. Now, how do we move it back to the screen? Let's go to the script here. So here in the JavaScript file, we set a couple of variables here. We just select our elements so we can easily work with them. And when we click our support bubble, and the class list contains opacity 0, so it isn't visible. So if you click it when the form isn't visible, then you're actually opening the form. What we are then going to do is we are going to remove that translate x full property from the class list. And remember that I've said that we said to Tailwind, hey, everything should be animated. So if we remove that transformation that this should be off screen, then it will be animated on screen. That's how simple it is. And Alex even made it pretty nice, because if we take a look at the initial state here, then you see that we have opacity 0 here, so invisible. And when we are opening, we are going to remove opacity 0, and we are going to add opacity 100. So we are going to from completely invisible to visible, which causes this nice fade in, fade out effect. I don't know if you can see it at the 30 FPS that we got going on YouTube, but in 60 FPS, this is certainly visible. Let's see if there are any questions or remarks here. Let's see. Side question: is your editor shrinking down styles into ... to make it easier to read? Yes, it does that. You saw it, I think, here at Support Bubble. I didn't need to do anything for that. That's just PHP Storm's default behavior. Let's see. You can install the Tailwind plugin, so when you hover over a class, it shows you the CSS properties used by that class. That's actually a good tip, and I'm going to install that plugin after this stream. What does that R operator do in the CSS class? That's also a good question. This is a trick that my colleague Willem often does, and that Alex has picked up on. It basically does nothing. It is just for having a little logical separation between how you name or how you want to target this little div and the Tailwind directives. It says like, this is like a functional kind of thing, and this is how you want to style it. It's just by convention. The pipe itself in essence does nothing. And Alex already explained it as well. It's just used as a spacer. I'm glad I didn't lie. If anyone interested, I can submit a pull request refactoring vanilla JavaScript to Alpine. Actually, I think in this case, just keeping vanilla JavaScript is better, because it will just work without anything. And that was what we were aiming for. With Tailwind, we've made a little bit of an exception on that, because Tailwind is probably the easiest way to let others customize the behavior, but we don't see users or many users wanting to customize this script. So we're probably let it remain a little bit hidden, and I think it's good to have no dependency on Alpine. But thanks for the suggestion anyway. And if you want to do it and use it like that in your own projects, feel free to just fork our code and do what you like best. Okay, I think that is everything about how the package works. I think if you have any questions about like how the source code works, let me know. But I think we've just touched upon everything here. Maybe let's take a look at the tests as well here. And probably a lot of you here know that I've been busy with creating a course on Pest these last few months. So it is no surprise that the tests of this package are written in Pest as well. Now, for those that don't know that, let's show you the course where I've been working on. It's called Testing Laravel. It's basically a course that teaches you testing from scratch, but also show you a lot of cool tips and tricks here. Yeah, if you're interested in that, just go to testinglaravel.com. Okay, let's take a look at how we test this. Let's see. These tests are actually all very small and very pragmatic. So we have a Blade component here to render out the extra HTML that we need for the bubble in the form. And this is how we basically test if that is basically working. It's like a smoke test, so it can be rendered. And what we basically do is we take our XSupport bubble tag, we render that. You can do that with the Blade function, and you can do this in a PHP unit test just by calling this Blade, but Pest is awesome, so you don't need this. You can just chain it from it, and then you just assert if you see something that is rendered by there, and then you know that there isn't any kind of syntax error inside of the component, or maybe you've configured the view wrong. By this, you know that part actually works. We've also said that when you are logged in, that it will automatically use the logged in user. And this is the test that proves that. You can see that it's also very small. And this login function is already a little bit interesting, because you might think, hey, I need to log in, so I need to have like a user stored in a database somewhere. But you actually don't need that. You can just have like an in-memory user. This one isn't persisted at all, and say to auth login, just log in with this. The authentication system actually doesn't care where your user is stored. So this is pretty handy in our tests, because we can just have a user in memory here. So we're now logged in, and then if we render the component, we just want to see the data of the logged in user. It's as simple as that. We've also added a configuration option that says that you shouldn't use the logged in user by default. So here we just set that property in the config file. We render our component, and we assert that we don't see these things. And that is how we test that. Again, very, very simple. Let's take a look here. Here are also some interesting tests. So these are the tests for the controller. So this controller handles the form submission, and here we are making sure that works. So how are we going to do this? This is the main test. It can accept a support form submission. And what we basically do is we just post to our own route, and then we assert if the event was dispatched. So remember that our controller does really nothing outside of just firing that event. Here we are going to say, hey, that is it should be dispatched. And here we are just going to take a look if all the things on the event are set properly. So we are going to get the request of the event, and we are going to use some higher order expectations to see if they are all equal to what we submitted here. So you can see here that form values method or function, it just returns some dummy values. And here in this expectation, we just take a look if the validated attributes are equal to our entire form values. So again, a very simple test, but this actually makes sure that we pass everything correctly to the event. This is also a pretty nice test, I think. So this test makes 100% sure that everything is validated on the server side. And you can see that this test, it only takes 5 lines of code. How amazing is that if you think about it? So this test is called it will validate all fields by default. So this uses a data provider called form fields, and these are the form fields that we use: name, subject, email, message. So we are going to run this test for each of those form fields. So the first time it will be name here, the second time it will be email, and so on. So we are going to unset that form value. We are going to post something to that route, and we are going to make use of that Laravel's new assertion method, assert invalid name. So when we unset one of the form values, we want to see the error for that value here. And that's basically how you can test if all fields on the form are required. In our config file, you can also say that some of the fields shouldn't be required. So if you set this to false, then they are not required and not even displayed. How can we test that? Well, we are going to use the same form fields data set here. Again, we are going to run this for each and every entry here. We are going to unset the value. So in the first time it will be name, second time it will be subject. Then we are going to say in the config file, hey, we don't want to validate this. Then we are going to just post the remaining form values and assert that everything was valid and that the event was submitted. So, and with this test, we absolutely know sure that this part of our configuration actually works correctly. Yeah, and you may think, hey, isn't this kind of overkill to have like these kind of tests? But these two tests have actually caught bugs when the package was being created. So it's good to have these kind of tests as well, I think. Okay, let's maybe go over one more test, and then I think we can call it a day, unless you have any questions. So if you have any questions at all, now's the time to post them, because I'm going to close this stream down in a couple of minutes after I finish this. Okay, let's maybe do one more. So, or one more file. Let's go over all of these tests in this file, and then we've covered just everything, which is cool. Excuse me. Let me take one more sip of my water. Okay, so in our configuration file, we had that little option, mail to, where we could fill in an email address. And here we are going to test out that if it is set to null, that nothing will be sent by us. So we're just going to fake notifications. We are going to post all the form values. Of course, that request should be successful, and we shouldn't have sent a notification. Nice and simple. Okay, then the next test. The next test is a little bit tricky. I've spent a little bit of time to get this one right because of refresh service provider. We're going to dive into that one. So this test, it's named, it can be configured to send a notification. So here we are first going to set our mail2 config value to something, to jane@example.com. But without that, without refresh service provider, this wouldn't work. Why not, you ask? Because when this test is being booted, when PES is being booted, it will via, how is it called again? Orchestra. Orchestra will call the service provider, and then after that, your test will be called. And remember, in our service provider, here we already check that config value. So by just changing this, that doesn't change anything because the service provider has already been run. So you must run it again to just pick up on the change. And that is being done in refresh service provider. So here we're just going to new up that service provider. We're going to give it the app because that's what it needs to work. And we are going to call our package booted again. so that this time register mail notification event handler is being called. But in a regular Laravel request cycle, of course, this will run correctly. In a normal Laravel request, first the config will be read and then the service provider will get run. And that is basically business as usual, I think. So with notification fake, we've set everything up. We are going to send a post request to our route. Then we are going to determine that a notification was sent. And this is also an interesting thing. This is how you can assert that a notification is being sent to to something that is not a model or a class. So how you can typically use Laravel's notification system is that you make a model or some other kind of class notifiable. But in this particular case, we are just going to send our mail to just a mail address, not even a class, just a string, the mail address. And this is how you can make an assertion against that. So with an anonymous notifiable. And this is something provided by Laravel itself. And the rest is basically business as usual. We get the notification and we use some higher order expectations to make sure that every field in that notification is correct. Now, this last test is something that I always tend to do when creating tests for that involve notifications and mailables. In a test like this, you are actually testing if your notification is sent at the right time, but you're not testing the entire notification, because the notification itself, it won't really get rendered. So if you take a look at the notification itself, or not this notification, my notification, of course, then you can see that we have like a toMail method here that builds up that mail message. But if you use notification fake, this code will actually never get called. And if you have a mailable and you type mail fake, then in your tests, mails won't actually be rendered. So if you have an error there, maybe in your view or maybe in the location of your view, your mail won't work, even though your tests will say they do. So what I typically like to do for notifications and mailables is to make like a unit test myself for this, where I just call that rendering code so that I know when this gets rendered out that all the variables in the blade file are correct, that I've specified the view name correctly. Let's see how we've done this. So we just have our form values here. We just new up the notification ourselves. And here we are just manually calling toMail, and we are going to render that mail message that gets returned. And we just make an assertion on this that this actually contains something that we expect in the mail. And that is like everything there is to it. So yeah, I think we've gone over every single line of code in this package. I thought actually that this package was going to be a little bit more difficult to code up, mainly because I'm sometimes a little bit scared of how difficult CSS and JavaScript things can be. But in this case, it's pretty simple. So yeah, I've laid the foundation of this package, but then Alex came in and he just took care of every CSS and JavaScript. And it's pretty cool. And I think if there's now a next package where we need some kind of extra JavaScript snippets or some CSS, that I'll be able to do it myself. And I hope that by viewing this, that you will have gained confidence as well. That adding a little bit of CSS and JavaScript actually isn't that difficult. Now, before closing down, I'm going to take a look at the questions one more time. Let's take a look here. A bit of both. I think I'm going to have a long night trying to add this. Well, I think you'll have a long night, hopefully, but I think not too long behind the computer, because this will only take you a couple of minutes to add. Do you track code coverage in your testing at Spatie? Usually I don't. I think I add only enough tests that gain me enough confidence, and it's not really my goal to have like 100% test coverage. I do run code coverage sometimes, but I'm not going to go for testing every little if. It's a little bit of a personal feeling. If I'm feeling confident that in the test suite that I'm not going to introduce bugs and that things introduced by PRs are going to not going to break the package, then it's okay for me. But it's a little bit of a loose thing. Okay, I think that we're at the end of the stream. I hope that you all liked it. Again, if you need to know more about testing, go watch our new testing course, testinglaravel.com. And I'll probably be back in one of the next days or weeks with another stream. Thanks all for watching. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.